Wealth is not just a number, it's a frequency. I watched my parents lose everything in the 70s. I saw a carpenter's hands go still and a housekeeper's eyes fill with the dust of a bankrupt dream. But in that silence, I heard the stars. I realized that money isn't just paper, it's energy that follows the cycles of the moon and the patterns of the zodiac. Before I understood the stars, I understood the sound of survival. In a small town outside Manila in the 1970s, my alarm clock was the rhythmic thud-thud of my father's hammer at 5 a.m. He was a carpenter, a man who built the skeletons of chairs and tables for others while struggling to keep the roof over our own. My mother was the quiet architect of our dignity. I remember the scent of laundry soap on her hands. She spent her days making our world clean and orderly, even when our expenses were a jagged puzzle of enough versus not quite. Her labor was the only thing standing between us and the chaos outside. I learned then that stability is a performance. She performed normalcy even when the math didn't add up. In the Philippines, poverty isn't a tragedy. It's a relentless math problem. I watched my parents stretch a single fish to feed a family. I learned the magic of the centavo at the corner sari-sari shop, realizing early that without the right tools, you don't get the prize. Then the floor fell out. My mother's health began to fail, and the money began to bleed. 5 years of hospital corridors and doctor bills dissolved our foundation. We sold the house. We moved. When that wasn't enough, we fell further, descending into a 20 square meter space in the slums. It was musky, cramped, and smelled of desperation. Watching my father, a man who could build anything, carry his tools into a home that was failing him was the moment I realized that life doesn't just test your strength, it tests your frame. But this is where the alchemy begins. When you lose the wood and the nails, you realize home isn't a building. When the shop sign comes down, you realize wealth isn't inventory. In the tarot, the magician stands before a table with 4 tools: a cup, a sword, a pentacle, and a wand. In that 20 square meter room, my table looked empty, but I still had my mind. The sword, I had my desire to survive. The wand, I had my love for my family. The cup, and I had my capacity for labor. The pentacle, I learned that money energy doesn't come from a bank. It comes from the ability to look at a pile of ruins and ask, what can I build with the scraps? If I could survive Manila in the 70s with nothing but a dream and a wooden pencil, then you, wherever you are right now, already have everything on your table to start this 12-month journey. Chapter 1, Aries, the Spark of Hunger. I want you to close your eyes and imagine a space. It is 20 square meters. To the wealthy, that is a walk-in closet. To us, it was the entire universe. In that room, there was no such thing as a private thought. We lived in the rhythm of each other's breath. Outside, the Manila humidity was a physical weight, and the soundtrack was a constant, unfiltered roar. The shift happened in a basement. It was 2008, and the Manila monsoon had turned the streets into rivers. I was working as a clerk, and while the partners were upstairs in their dry, air-conditioned offices, I was in the archives. The water was rising, a murky gray soup that smelled of wet concrete and rust. It reached my shins. My job was to save the important papers. A senior partner stood at the top of the stairs, looking down at me as if I were a stray cat. "Make sure the signatures stay dry," he shouted. "Those contracts are worth more than this entire building." I looked at the thick cream-colored paper in my hand, a multi-million-dollar merger, and then I looked at my pruning, gray feet in the mud. He was right. In the eyes of the law, that ink was more alive than I was. That was the moment the Aries fire truly ignited. It wasn't a warm glow. It was a hot, stinging burn. Hunger is not a tragedy if you use it as fuel. I realized that the rich kids had a fatal weakness. They were comfortable. Comfort is a slow poison for ambition. Because I had nothing, I had no fear of losing. The biggest mistake dreamers make is waiting for the right time. Aries energy is about the raw, unfiltered I am. It doesn't wait for the door to be opened. It kicks the door down. If you are starting with nothing, your only capital is your aggression and your hunger. Stop looking at your lack of connections as a disability. You can live on less, work longer, and endure more. In a long distance race, the one who knows how to suffer longest wins. That is your competitive edge. Identify the smallest room in your life right now. Instead of resenting it, master it. In alchemy, we don't just think, we operate. This month, your first operation is the survival audit. Aries is the sign of the warrior. A warrior does not tolerate a leak in his tent. I want you to perform 3 specific strikes of Aries energy. First, the territorial cleanse. Second, the decision sprint. Third, the hunger ritual. The spark has been ignited. You have reclaimed your 20 square meters. You have accepted your hunger as fuel, and you have performed your first alchemical operation. The first gate of the alchemist is open, but a spark, as powerful as it is, cannot stand alone. Next chapter, we enter the sign of Taurus, the foundation of value. Don't let your fire go cold. Your 12-month journey to global sovereignty is just beginning. I am the architect. You are the alchemist. I'll see you in the next chapter.